Welcome to the Tech Flash. If you're looking to increase your ed tech knowledge that's quick and easy to listen to, you have come to the right place. Let's join our host Josh and see what today's episode is all about.
Hello and welcome to the Tech Flush. Listen, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're tuning in. I hope you've really enjoyed this past couple episodes with my new friend, Michael. He's a pretty awesome guy, so I really appreciate you tuning in and keeping track and seeing what we've got going here. So really just remember, we're going to be real today. We don't need more ideas. We need things that actually work in our classroom. And I hope through this conversation in these next 15, 20 minutes that you're going to hear that and you're going to be able to build something, not that you can do today, but you can use tomorrow with your classes. So let's get diving into it. So we've got Michael back. Remember, Michael is an instructional technology coach out of Virginia Beach. And now, Michael, speaking of Virginia Beach, I have a question for you. And it's kind of different to me because, I'm in Tennessee. We're not near the ocean. But I've heard you talk about this before, that you guys actually have a swimming class, I guess, where you go and swim and learn how to do those things as part of your school day. I think that's wild.
Yeah, it's a grant that's provided through the city. Obviously these children live near the ocean and water is all around, pools and lakes and different things that they can be in. So there's a 2-week program where they basically spend most of the day out between leaving here, going there, taking their swim lesson and coming back. And it can be a real pain point to get everything you need in a day to the kids through that kind of instruction. It is very difficult for teachers to arrange that to where they can get all their lessons, done or modified and figured out for that time period.
Yeah, I believe that, but I'm sure the kids love getting off campus, love going to do swimming, especially if the weather's nice. So let's get diving in. So listen, today I want to talk about AI and I want to talk about feedback. And I know it's one of the hardest parts of teaching right now, of living in both of those worlds. But before we really get into this AI topic, when we think about feedback, what is something that you've used that takes a ton of your time as a teacher that wasn't really actually helping students?
Well, everything I do helps students, Josh. But as far as some of the things that took a lot of time, I can definitely answer that. Writing conferences, let's start there. If you were going to have a writing conference with a student, let's just say you give them 5 minutes and you have 25 students, you're looking at 2.5 hours of student conferences for that one group of kids. That's a lot of time to give over a period of a week. Even if you give them a half hour a day, that's 5 days a week. And that is a lot of time that teachers already don't have time built into their schedule. Some teachers don't even have transitions put into the time that they are supposed to be teaching. So it was always a pain point of how do you get your writers to grow? Because the number one thing that gets your writers to grow is feedback. And how can you give them timely feedback without having them in a parking lot and a long line that's down your table? And of course, while they're waiting there, you can only talk to one kid at a time. So it can get out of hand. You got to do your management. And then how much of the 5 minutes is telling Johnny to stop hitting Sally? So it can be a bit of a point of a pain for a lot of teachers, but I have an idea.
Let's hear it. And I know you've had this transition, you've had these thoughts. So what's this idea you've got for us?
So basically, you have to clone yourself. That's my idea. And the way you clone yourself is it's not a real science project or anything like that. But I was working with School AI, and I'm always trying to gamify something because kids love games, right? So I said, how can I gamify this? And at the time, we were still the Wild West of our AI exploration. School AI came around; they've got their AI guardrail. And I said, how can they turn it into where maybe they can communicate with School AI to get feedback, not how to rewrite what they've written, but maybe just get suggestions. And School AI could suggest to them, well, why don't you check for periods or capitals, or how about the part about the dog? Why don't you tell a little bit more about what's happening there? Like general suggestions to help coach them in their writing. So it was more like a writing coach was my idea to develop that. And I liked it because, I'm going to share my screen here and put some visuals to it. So if you're not seeing it, they'll be available to you. But talking about how to clone yourself. So here's how I did it. I did it with School AI. And I figured if I can clone myself like I did with my Padlet activity many years ago, that in the previous episode, go listen, you can do it too. So what I did with School AI was I had to decide, do I want my product to be handwritten or in typing? So let's talk about handwriting versus typing real quick. If your core instructional question is, what's the purpose of this task? If your goal is letter formation, spacing, handwriting stamina, by all means, do this on paper. But if your goal is to improve idea development, word choice, sentence craft, organization, and voice, write digitally. And this is why it matters. When students write by hand, their rewriting is a physically tiring. Students avoid revising. Teacher feedback focuses on punctuation and neatness. I can't tell you how many conferences are like punctuation, neatness, where's your capital letters? And that's my 5 minutes worth of writing conferences in 2.5 hours for the week. Students look or learn that good writing is looking correct, not expressing their ideas. Like, that's not really writing. But if you revise it and you're revising digitally, revision becomes possible. It's not exhausting. Students are more willing to try new ideas and expand details. Always want to expand in the elementary world, let me tell you. Conferences can focus on voice, clarity, expression, and craft, and students experience writing in a way that real authors do. They refine, they don't recopy. So how does it drive student writing with their growth? It's immediate feedback for them. It's a super important thing. So this is what I want to accomplish. I want to write digitally. And there's the two reasons I want to write digitally. One, I want to save on my cognitive load when it comes to organizing and assessing and figuring out where everybody is. And I can use AI for that. So in order to do that, I need it digital. Another thing I want to do is I want to take that bottleneck of those kids waiting in line, and I want them to not wait in line. I want them to have something to talk to and exchange like a thought partner. We have peer buddies, and sometimes the peer buddies aren't as good or they're not available. But in between the peer getting together with a peer or having this an asset with the School AI, which I'm about to show you, I thought that this would be a great way to solve that pain point. So, immediate revision is a critical driver. And here's some more information about this with that AI element. So let me skip right ahead to the meat of this conversation, and that is School AI and how I did it. I created a writing coach, and what I did was in Book Creator, I used Adobe Express, which is implemented inside of Book Creator. It's right there, and I created these images of these cartoons, like a bear riding a skateboard, has a handful of honey in one hand, an ice cream cone in another. The dripping honey trail and bees chasing him. Like, what's the story? And having the kids write about that. And they can do that. And then what they do is in that book, I created a link to a School AI. And when I talk about AI for young kids, I tell them it's an app I created because that's really what it is. I told it what it can talk to them, and it only talks to them about what I asked it to talk to them about. And this is not one where it rewrites anything that they said. It just will give them suggestions like, "Oh, why don't you tell me more about what happens to the dog in this part?" Or why don't you check for your capitalization on their first two sentences? It gives them very general coaching advice like that, pretty much like I would say. So I put that all together, packaged it up, gave it to the kids, and then they could click on this, and I called it Crack the Code for the robot. And the robot is, trying to, they got to save it. And it would score a 1 to a 10 on their writing. So as they wrote more, they could copy and paste what they wrote into School AI. School AI would look at it and it would give them 3 suggestions on what they could do to improve it. If they didn't understand the suggestions, say, I don't understand. And it would revise the suggestions it actually gave to students. And if they didn't understand, I still don't understand. And then it would go down to just one suggestion. So it differentiates for the student actually in the whole entire process. So as they're building their stories and they're doing this, they have a one page in Book Creator, and I put it all the text on one page in Book Creator because you could use AI like Brisk to click on that one page of text to give a glow and a grow and slip it right in there. Uh, the one of the things that you can do is have them copy and paste it. And this is what I do for the next level is I have them put their work. I say, okay, I want to see where everybody's at. Copy and paste what you've written so far, put it in a Google form. And when they put their work into a Google form, it automatically creates a spreadsheet for me. So I have their original writing in the Google form. I only ask them in the form to put their first name because that's all I want on the Google form because I don't want any privacy issues to be with AI. Gemini, we have the enterprise version, so it doesn't train the model. But if you wanted to compare the output of their writing and place it for analyzation in another platform, they only have the first name in the writing. So in the experience, and these are some of the things that went on in the conversations that they had with the AI. And this was before recent updates to School AI and how they would engage and how the chatbots engage with the students. But you can see the students in Book Creator were actually copying and pasting the advice that they got from School AI into their document or in Book Creator. And as they used it, they would cross it off or not cross it off. So they were able to do all of those things. And it was really cute to watch them come up with this process on their own. I didn't tell them to copy and paste it. The black highlighted, that's the version that came out of the School AI recommendations. And then the aha moment for me was this one student had this add a clear concluding sentence to show how the story is finished. And she went back and forth like 10 times with this thing. And then once I, leaned over to her and said, I think you could do better than that. Because it was like this, they lived happily ever after ending. And if you're an elementary school teacher, you understand that that's a fight. So after I leaned over that 10 seconds, because I knew I was asking, this is what she comes back. Even today, teachers, librarians, and parents still tell the story of the human and the dragon. And that's her ending. I mean, how next level is that? I was like, hey, is that an AI answer? But it was not. So she made her own connection to something else she had read, or the 2 days, 3 days, a week before, she hadn't read this book. And then she saw that ending and it clicked in her head to make this ending. So that lesson she learned all on her own. And that is like total gold for a teacher to have a kid make their own connection. Because that's why we explain things as teachers 16 different ways to Sunday is to make the connection for the kid. But this kid made her own connection, which is going to last forever.
I love that. That's really cool, Michael. And we think about this process, and I know you're getting ready to share some more things on your screen, but really, how did this, like, even before this writing for the school AI and your Google form, how did that really change what students are doing?
Well, they got excited because they were getting feedback right away. They didn't have to wait in line. they Students didn't like waiting in line. They would rather work. So they could have feedback instantly and when they wanted it and when they chose to get it. That was the really cool point. Our policies changed now so that this activity, they have to have teachers approve feedback before it can be delivered to students. So this automatic feedback is kind of put on hold right now as our policies adapt and adjust and as the people who are making the policies learn more about the capabilities of this. But this is a fantastic way for elementary teachers to save 2.5 hours, to get the kids started, because this is just a starting point for them. And it's just a general organizational coach. And then as a teacher, what I would do, and as you can see the difference in, the initial writing to the final writing on this student, it's double what it was prior. So now that this is there and I collect this, I can have all the students' work in my spreadsheet. And I can take my rubric and load up my rubric to it. And then I can have it organize this information in any way I want. And I like mine in a table. So I ask my AI to create a table with the student's original writing and how they performed on each rubric, because the rubric had I think 8 different things it was looking for. And then I can say, give me a glow, a grow, a next step, and an anecdotal note for each student. Give me the glows and grows and next steps for the class as a whole. And it put it all into this beautiful table. And then I can look at the original writing and I can agree or disagree with what AI has suggested
Yeah.
and the overall score for that grade. I think once I was asked by the AI, would you like me to put a little subjectivity into it like a teacher would? And I said, yeah. And I agreed with it even more. But the data table gave me a really great pulse mark. I didn't have to sit there and separate papers like teachers do and put them in different piles or, write any feedback on there. And then I can modify, change, or agree with any feedback. But what I would do using it is I would use that and I would say, okay, what small groups do you suggest? And then looking at the writing, I would agree or disagree with that. And then the following week, I say, hey, I'm working on this objective. I pull the same writing up. Who needs support on this objective that's coming up in the curriculum? And it can give me a list. And then I can agree or disagree with that because that,
Yeah.
I'm in charge of my assistant. So that's what I would use it for. And it saves me hours of time. And it's not a lot of cognitive load for me to say, make the table like this. I want you to adjust it and include not just highlights from the students, right? I want the whole thing. I need another column. Put a column for, next steps if I had forgotten to do that, or put a column for overall score, whatever I forget. So my effort and mind is just working on what I would like to see. And it has been a game changer. And to think of how fast I can turn that information around into feedback for my students. So instead of 2.5 hours, I can have, hey, you 3 students, come over here and give them the same message that they need to hear
Yeah.
because I know they need to hear the same message without having spent hours going over the data. And then I could have a group of 5 over here that need work on this. And I could pull small groups and do instructional differentiation that way. So that was the exciting part for me in the use of AI in organizing the overall data to give some guidance as to where I could go next and to, I constantly ask it things. And then you could also in that form, like every writing piece for the next month or, 3 months or semester, you could just have them keep adding to the Google form and expanding on that spreadsheet. And then you can actually have AI analyze the growth or lack of growth or biggest point that they need to work on. So it's exciting to see how much more you could do because that way when you get together you can talk about it. Like even if you did it as a grade level, each teacher can get feedback on their class and then you can put all of it together and see if there's any common threads that go across the classes and how could you address that, what conversation. So instead of starting at where 4 teachers are sorting papers and showing examples of different, how could be already done for them. And then they can go to the next level of the conversation. So they either save time by not having to have an extra meeting, or they just start at a better point where they can really dive in to what's going on in the data world and not have it being spent, not having to spend hours on it in addition to everything else that they did to come up with that.
Man, listen, between the quick feedback that students can get to really continue to challenge their writing, to continue to grow, and then really pulling that teacher side of it where we're using AI to get more clarity. So where we really understand what the students need in this moment and not have to take it home over the weekend, not have to take it home overnight, and then give them their feedback the next day. Just that immediate feedback is so key. And I feel like my next kind of move I want to make is, I know you've probably answered this, but what's one move that a teacher can to make tomorrow that would actually impact their students' learning?
This is a tough one. This is a complex project to a degree, but I think that I would figure out some way to analyze your students' work because, like, you can take a photograph of handwritten work, like, do like 3 to 5, 10 students, just take pictures of what they wrote. And then you could upload that into the AI and have the AI analyze it against a rubric you're using and check it out. And then if you don't like the output, just talk to your AI because in 2026 it's conversational. You don't have to come up with these fancy prompts. You can just tell it what you want, and then when you get what you want, finally say what prompt is one I could have used in the very beginning to have gotten this output, and it'll tell you, and you can just use that for the next round you have, and or if you want, copy and paste some stuff into a spreadsheet and just do first name only, or give the students a number and get that and have it look over the students writing and see how it works. It doesn't take much time. I like I like them doing the work of the copy and paste and me just analyzing the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
That's my favorite, but you can use just a picture of their writing.
Man, I love that. Just that simple idea of just taking a picture, uploading it, and not even using a spreadsheet. Like there's just so many creative things that we can really harness with AI to continue to support our students, especially when it comes to writing and that immediate feedback. And so really I feel like it comes down to clarity. I feel like it comes down to quick, easy feedback that's actionable for them that they can use in the moment and not have to stand in that line to come see their teacher and then have to wait again to come back. Just so much quicker. And I feel like that's something that they can use today, that you can use tomorrow. So that's it. One move. Try it tomorrow. We'll talk to you next time. See ya.
Thank you for joining us today on the Tech Flush podcast. Stay tech savvy, keep those gadgets charged, and remember, teachers and technology go hand in hand, connecting students to a world of knowledge for an electrifying learning experience. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and spread the word about the Tech Flush to your friends. Catch all episodes on Apple Podcasts. See you next time on the Tech Flush.